Hello, today I'm going to do a controlled roll down with a band. You could do this anchored to something sturdy. I have it obviously anchored to a bar on the squat rack. You could do it like anchored to a door or something like that. Obviously just make sure no one's going to open the door, but you really want it anchored to something sturdy because we're going to hang our weight on it. So if you've done this in a Pilates class, you've probably done it, or on the reformer part of me, you've probably done it on a trapeze. We're going to be doing it with the intention of moving segmentally through our spine, but also getting to a place where when we come up, we can stay stacked with our ribcage over our pelvis and the top of our head super tall. A lot of times when there's neck problems, what happens is we get into like a slouchy position with the forward head posture, and the exercise that everyone gives people is a chin tuck. So what a chin tuck is it's kind of tucking the chin down and bringing the head back. And what you're doing there is you're just kind of shearing the head on the neck spine, which is not really going to help you in the long run. Instead, what we want to think about is getting the valley of the rib cage, or this kind of front of the rib cage, right over the pubic bone, having the ability to breathe equally into the rib cage and to differentiate the lumbar and the thoracic spine, in other words, the low back from the rib cage, and then also being able to stretch the top of our head up to the ceiling and keep the neck long versus crunching down in the back of the head. So with all that, we're going to start with our band anchored. I'm going to go into like a tripod sitting position, meaning I'm going to sit on both my sit bones equally. This is really important. So if you've worked with me on this in the office, you know that I want you to feel like you're anchored on your sit bones, and then I also want you to feel like you can be anchored on the tripod of your feet. So the big toe mount, the little toe mount, and both sides of the heel. If you're doing this against the door, you could have your feet up on the door, kind of like you would do it in a gym when you're doing a bent row, but I want you to be sure that you're not on the outsides or the insides of the feet so that you're able to stay stable on the pelvis. I'm going to start with my spine nice and tall, and I'm going to look up to the ceiling. I'm not looking up and letting my head kind of drop back like a Pez dispenser, but I'm using my eyes to look up where I'm going towards the band. I have a little tension here. I'm going to start by exhaling from kind of my lower abs, which is a term I hate, but everyone uses. It's really more from my pelvic floor. So as I exhale, I'm thinking about exhaling from my pelvic floor, really from my pubic bone. And as I do that, I'm going to slowly start to let my pelvis, the wheel of my pelvis, roll back. And notice I'm trying to move from my low back first. I'm not just dropping from my ribs. So I'm going to let that wheel of my pelvis roll back, and then I'm going to slowly, I have to give myself a little more slack on the band. I'm going to slowly start to differentiate and move through the ribs. I'm elongating through my hips. Notice my chin is staying away from my chest and my neck is staying pretty long. Now I have a lot of tension on the band, but there's also tension in my abs. And then I'm going to use the band to help slowly unfurl me back up onto my sits bones. At the very top, I want to feel like I'm able to sit up and keep my chest tall and the top of the head to the ceiling. If this is too much for my hips, I can use a block where I will use a couple plates under my pelvis. So this is going to change my pelvic position, but I can still stay anchored on my sit bones. So I'm going to bring myself up a little bit, give myself a little more space, and then I can slowly come back up. So this helps me to start to move from my core. And now when I'm here on this one, I'm going to take a nice deep breath into the back of the ribs, really into the bra line, and then I'm going to exhale from my pelvic floor and unfurl myself back up. So I have a lot of hip mobility, so I'm able to do this pretty easily. If you don't, this might not be the exercise for you, but likely if we're doing this in the office, we've gotten you to a place where you're able to do it and feel what it's like to do it sitting up nice and tall. And that's the exercise.